Right now, look around. Everything you see, every relationship, every challenge, every success or failure, is you pushed out, not metaphorically, literally. You are the origin and the projector of it all. This speech is not about motivation, it's about revelation. If you've ever wondered why your life looks the way it does, or how to break out of cycles that seem impossible to escape, stay with me. What I will share will challenge everything you thought was true about cause and effect and hand the power back to where it always belonged, within your awareness. Let me tell you a secret, not a secret hidden in books or guarded by scholars, but a secret hidden in plain sight, concealed only by your refusal to believe it. Your consciousness is the only reality. You think the world is happening to you, that events unfold randomly, by chance, or through the force of others' decisions. But I tell you this is false. The world is not outside of you, it is not separate from you, it is not beyond you, it is your reflection, and until you grasp this truth, life will continue to appear chaotic, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Everything begins with consciousness. Nothing exists outside of it. The moment you imagine, the moment you feel, the moment you accept a thing as true, it sets itself in motion. There is no other creative power. The outer world is nothing but the inner world made visible, your assumptions, beliefs, fears, and desires all clothed in form, reflected back at you as your daily experience. Now, many will argue, but I never wished for this illness, I never asked for this betrayal, I never desired this poverty. And they speak truly, they did not wish for it consciously. But consciousness is more than surface thought. It is the silent assumptions you carry, the deep-seated identity you wear, the habitual inner conversations that run even when you think you're silent. These, too, are acts of creation. Observe your life carefully, and you will see the pattern. What you believe about yourself, you see in others. What you expect from life, it gives you. What you fear, you face. And what you persistently imagine, no matter how absurd it once seemed, eventually shows up as your reality. This is not theory, this is law. Suppose you feel unworthy, do you not find evidence of unworthiness wherever you go? People ignore you, reject you, overlook your value. You call it coincidence, or perhaps bad luck. But it is your own consciousness arranging scenes, placing actors, and delivering outcomes that match the tone of your inner world. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. If you walk this earth saying to yourself, "No one ever listens to me," then the world listens by refusing to hear you. You live the echo of your own belief. The world is never out of sync with your self-concept. It cannot be. It is the servant of your consciousness. It must obey. Let me say this again. You are not a victim of the world. You are its author. The scenes you encounter are not there to impress you. They are there because you impressed them upon consciousness. Whether you did so in fear or in faith, by habit or by choice, it matters not. What you accept as true internally, you must experience externally. This is why changing outer conditions alone never brings lasting change. You can switch jobs, partners, countries, you can even win a fortune, and still find yourself back in the same emotional climate. Why? Because you never changed the only thing that truly matters, your concept of yourself. You must begin to see that every event, every person, every circumstance is playing a role assigned by your own inner state. Until you change that inner state, the players may change, but the play remains the same. Have you noticed that some people repeat the same relationships again and again, only the names change? Or others lose money no matter how many opportunities come? It is not chance. It is the law of consciousness at work. They are faithful, not to truth, not to possibility, but to a particular concept of self, and that self must be expressed in form. You can test this. And I urge you to do so. Go within and assume something lovely. Don't force it, don't beg, just quietly accept it, feel it, know it, walk in the assumption as though it were already true. If you truly dwell in that state, the world will conform. Not because of luck, not because someone decided to help you, but because it had no choice. Your consciousness made it so. People believe in cause and effect in the material sense. They think a job causes income, or a person causes heartbreak, or a market causes success. But this is backward. It is your inner cause, your consciousness, that gives rise to outer effects. The job, the person, the market, they are the shadows. The source is within. When you know this, truly know it, fear loses its power. You stop pleading with the world to change, and you start changing yourself. And as you change, the world reconfigures, not because it loves you, not because it understands, but because it must obey the image you project. Your world is yourself pushed out. The people you meet reflect back to you what you believe about life, about others, and most of all, about yourself. Change your assumptions, and those reflections must change. Now, many will ask, how long does it take? The answer is simple. The moment you accept it internally, the change is set in motion. The outer world may appear to delay, but this is illusion. Time is not the barrier. Your wavering is. If you persist, regardless of appearances, the reality must harden into fact, but most retreat. They imagine, they hope, they even believe until the old world fails to shift immediately. Then they doubt, and the old pattern returns, not because the law failed, but because they failed to remain loyal to the new state. It takes faith not in another, not in circumstance, but in your own creative power. The power to choose your inner state and remain faithful to it even when the evidence around you says otherwise. You must dare to believe that imagination is not idle. It is the engine of reality. It is your workshop. It is where the world is built. What you feel real within, you will find real without. There are no exceptions to this law. You may test it gently at first. Imagine a compliment and hear it spoken. Imagine a gift and receive it. Imagine peace and find it. These simple tests are not to impress others, they are to convince you. For once you are convinced, once you understand that consciousness truly creates reality, you will never again accept a circumstance as final. Even the most persistent problem becomes a canvas. The worst diagnosis, the deepest rejection, the greatest failure, all can be rewritten the moment you take control of the only true cause, your state of consciousness. It is not enough to speak affirmations without feeling. It is not enough to visualize without conviction. You must enter the state, feel it, occupy it, live from it. Do not ask if it is reasonable. Ask only, can I feel this to be true? If you can feel it, you can form it. And once it is formed in consciousness, it will take shape in experience. The question is not whether this works, the question is whether you will work it. The world has no choice but to reflect you. The mirror does not decide what to show, it merely shows what is placed before it. So it is with life. It reflects your consciousness. Change what you are within, and the reflection must follow. Everything you have ever experienced was once imagined, once believed, once accepted. Nothing came without a mental cause. So begin now, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Begin now to assume the best about yourself. Begin now to believe in the life you desire. Begin now to feel yourself already living it, because the moment you do, the world begins to move. People, events, so-called coincidences all shift to accommodate the new version of you. And in time, the world will stand as witness not to the force of your actions, but to the power of your inner state. Because the world is only ever echoing your internal state, you must come to understand this single, unshakable truth. You are the operant power, not some external force, not circumstances, not other people. You, always you. There is no intermediary between what you accept as true in your imagination and what unfolds in your life. There is no distant system orchestrating your experience outside your awareness. You are not at the mercy of unseen decisions made by someone else. Your consciousness does not need permission, approval, or assistance. It only needs your recognition. To believe that anything outside of you holds more power than what you assume to be true within yourself is to give your creative authority away. And as long as you do that, you will remain in bondage to appearances, waiting, doubting, begging the world to shift before you choose to shift within. But the world has no power of its own. It is passive, mechanical, obedient. It mirrors what you do in consciousness. It is not the master, it is the servant. You, through your awareness, are the one writing the script, casting the players, designing the scenes. You are not here to react, you are here to command. And I do not speak of command in the way the world understands it. I speak of assumption, of quiet, confident knowing, of standing firmly in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and refusing to accept any evidence to the contrary. That is true power. To say, I am, is to move the universe, not because the words themselves have magic, but because the awareness behind them is creative. When you say, I am successful, I am wanted, I am chosen, I am capable, you are not making a request. You are declaring the identity from which all action flows. The world cannot resist a man who knows who he is. And by that, I do not mean who he is in name or profession, but who he is in consciousness. Identity is causation. The one who claims a new state lives in that state and persists in it no matter what will see all things rearranged to make that identity flesh. Most live backwards. They wait to be validated before believing they are valuable. They wait to be loved before feeling lovable. They wait for wealth before identifying as wealthy, and so they wait and wait, while the outer world reflects their inner hesitation. But you must reverse this. You must be bold enough to say, I am, when the evidence says otherwise, bold enough to dwell in the feeling of success while circumstances scream failure, bold enough to accept the reality of your imagination over the appearance of your senses. That is the mark of the one who knows himself as the operant power. It is not the man who works the hardest who shapes the world, it is the one who imagines most vividly and most persistently, for actions flow from identity, and identity is shaped by assumption. What you accept as true of yourself determines your behavior, and your behavior molds your outcomes. The man who believes himself inferior may dress well, speak well, even achieve outward success, but sooner or later he will sabotage it. Why? Because his inner conception will not allow him to hold what contradicts it. Consciousness always wins. This is why true transformation is internal. It is not about repeating affirmations like a parrot. It is about awakening to the fact that your awareness of being is what shapes your entire world. What you are conscious of being, you become. You do not become what you want. You become what you are aware of being. If you are aware of being neglected, overlooked, or unwanted, then life will place before you the people and events to reflect exactly that. But if you dare to become aware of being respected, admired, loved, and fulfilled without waiting for a single thing to change outwardly, then the outer world must, and will, mirror that new assumption. This is not imagination as escape. It is imagination as creation. You do not imagine to pretend. You imagine to assume. You assume to become. And you become by persisting in the new identity. Now some will ask, but what if I do not feel it? What if I cannot believe the new state? I tell you this, your first responsibility is not to feel it perfectly, but to accept it inwardly. The feeling will come as you persist. You must understand belief is not built in an instant. It is shaped through repetition, through loyalty to the unseen, through choosing again and again to return to the state of the wish fulfilled. And with every return, the new identity becomes more natural, more automatic, more real, and eventually, what once felt like fantasy will feel like fact. That is when the world begins to move. That is when the invisible becomes visible. That is when what you once imagined becomes so real within you that it must take form around you. This is the law, and it has never failed anyone who has faithfully applied it, not because the law is selective, but because the power lies in your persistence. You are not trying to convince the world. You are convincing yourself, and once you are convinced, the world obeys. Stop waiting for someone to choose you. Stop waiting for the economy to change. Stop waiting for permission to be the version of you that you long to be. That version already exists in imagination. Step into it. Assume the role now. Think from it. Feel from it. Walk through life as if it were already true, not arrogantly, but faithfully, with quiet conviction. Every great change begins in silence within. The crowd does not see it at first. The world does not recognize it at once. But the one who changes within knows something has shifted, and that knowing is more powerful than any outward sign. From that inner certainty, action flows naturally. You will not need to force results. You will not need to manipulate others. You will not need to hustle to exhaustion. You will act from your new identity, and your new identity will draw the conditions that match it. You are not waiting for the world to approve. You are not hoping for change. You are being the change. You are the operant power, not because someone gave you that role, but because it has always been yours. Think of this. Nothing moves in your world unless you first imagine it. Nothing appears unless you first give it permission in consciousness. You may not remember every seed you've planted, but every harvest you encounter was once planted, watered, and nurtured by you. So the next time you see lack, or rejection, or limitation, do not curse it. Recognize it as the old echo of a former state. It has no power over you now unless you choose to remain in that state. Shift within, and it must dissolve. All things must reflect the new seed. This is why your greatest tool is attention. What you give your attention to, you empower. What you withdraw attention from, you starve. Stop feeding your fears with focus. Stop rehearsing your limitations. Stop retelling stories that do not belong to the version of you that you wish to be. Speak from the state you desire. Think from the end. Feel the atmosphere of your new life. And persist. That is your work. That is your power. And no one can do it for you. Others may offer advice. They may offer tools. They may offer strategies. But unless you assume the new state, nothing will shift. The world is not moved by advice, it is moved by assumption. Assume that you are already the version of yourself who has the life you desire. What would you feel? How would you walk? What would you allow or ignore? Begin now. Begin in silence. Begin in imagination. The outer world is but clay. You are the potter, and you shape it not with hands but with states of being. Everything bends to the one who knows who he is. Not because he is special, not because he is lucky, but because he finally stopped giving his power away. Imagination is not a daydream. It is not a distraction. It is not fantasy. Imagination is the very womb of creation. It is where everything begins everything. Before the world gives form, imagination gives it birth. You do not see to believe you imagine to see. Every visible thing was once invisible. Every structure, every system, every relationship, every outcome you have ever known came first through an act of imagining. You may walk through a city and see buildings, but they are not bricks and steel alone. They are frozen acts of imagination. Before a blueprint was drawn, before a single foundation was laid, someone first dared to imagine it, held it, felt it, walked through it in the quiet theater of their mind. The world simply followed orders. This is the core most ignore. Imagination is not a weak substitute for action. It is the cause of action. It is the invisible architect of all reality. Action is secondary, a vehicle, but imagination is the engine. And when you grasp this, you will understand why those who live by the senses alone are always chasing, always reacting, always exhausted, because they try to build reality from the outside in. You, however, must reverse this. Live from within, shape the unseen, occupy the desired, imagine not to escape, but to command. Feel the truth of what you want before it is visible, and watch as the world reconfigures around your inner alignment. If you can imagine it clearly and feel it deeply, then it is already yours in essence. The rest is simply the natural unfolding of the invisible into the visible. The acorn holds the oak, the seed holds the tree, and your imagination holds every life you could ever live. Which one blooms depends only on what you accept and nurture. Too many use imagination irresponsibly. They picture what they fear, rehearse what they dread, relive what they regret, and then call life unfair when those inner dramas become outer reality. But this is not punishment, it is law. What you consent to in imagination, you grant permission to in life. What you persist in inwardly must externalize. You may believe you are imagining harmlessly, but every thought felt as true is planting a seed, and the subconscious, which accepts all things without judgment, receives these seeds and brings them forth in kind. So imagine wisely. Do not waste the most powerful force you possess on worry, complaint, or revenge. Use it deliberately, and how do you use it? Begin not with effort, but with surrender. Drop the need to figure out the how. Close your eyes. Go within and simply be the one you wish to be. See through those eyes. Feel with that heart. Walk in that body. Think with that mind. Hear the words they would hear. Let the scene unfold around you naturally. Let it absorb you. Let it move you. Do not observe your desire as though it were a painting on a wall. Enter into it. Occupy it. Be surrounded by it. Imagination is not distant, it is immediate. What you accept within, you are already living. Some say, but I cannot imagine clearly. That is not the point. Clarity is not required, feeling is. Even a vague picture, charged with belief and emotion, is more powerful than the most vivid daydream that lacks conviction. You are not painting a perfect portrait. You are impressing upon your subconscious a new assumption of reality, and the subconscious, once impressed, moves all things, people, places, events to make it so. Perhaps you sit now in lack. Perhaps you feel small, ignored, forgotten. You do not need to beg or strive or explain yourself to the world. You need only to rise in imagination. See yourself as different. Feel yourself in a new role, and hold that image not with strain, but with faith. The world you now know is but the crystallized residue of former imaginal acts. It is the shadow of old assumptions. Let it be. It is already fading. Give no attention to it beyond what is required. Do not argue with the mirror, change the face you are presenting to it. This is not denial. This is mastery. To feel rich while appearances declare poverty is not delusion. It is creation. To feel loved when you are seemingly alone is not weakness, it is strength. The one who can dwell in the unseen, who can persist in the imaginal act, is the one who commands the scene. Imagination is the soil. Feeling is the water, repetition is the sunlight. You need no more than that. Plant the image, feel its truth, and revisit it again and again until it feels natural, then release it, trust it, act in alignment with it, and life will respond in the only way it can. Think of the one who desires freedom. If he continues to imagine himself trapped, to focus on obstacles, to replay his failures, then he is binding himself more tightly. But if he dares to imagine himself free to feel what freedom feels like, to walk in the mood of liberation, then the path will appear, not from effort, but from alignment. Everything changes when imagination leads. The same world becomes a new world. The same people begin to play new roles. You will not need to fight against conditions, you will rise above them, not by force, but by assumption. It is the nature of imagination to outpicture what it conceives. It cannot help itself, it must create. The question is never whether you are imagining, but what you are imagining. The world is a mirror, yes, but imagination is the one holding the lamp. Do not concern yourself with the mechanics. Imagination knows the way. It moves the right people, opens the right doors, dissolves the right walls. You are not the one making it happen, you are the one who declares that it has happened within. The rest follows. If you desire companionship, do not look around and measure the absence of it. Go within and feel yourself already cherished. Imagine the warmth of shared moments. Hear the laughter. Smell the nearness. Live it now. If you desire abundance, do not stare at your empty account and cry for help. Go within. Feel what it's like to spend freely, to give joyfully, to walk through life unburdened. Let your senses feast on the unseen wealth of imagination. That state, held faithfully, will attract its reflection. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful optimism. This is law. What you feel yourself to be determines what you experience. You cannot help but imagine. Even when you say nothing, you are imagining. Even in despair, you are imagining. So use it, direct it. Fill your inner world with scenes that lift you. Make your imagination your workshop, your sanctuary, your launching ground. You are not too late, you are not too broken, you are not too far gone. Imagination makes all things new. There is no limitation imagination cannot transcend. There is no condition it cannot reshape. You need not ask for permission, you need not plead for support. You are the operant power, and imagination is your tool. Every desire you have ever known was a preview of possibility, not a taunt, but a whisper. Not a denial, but a call. It is imagination showing you what is available if you will but claim it. So close your eyes, breathe deeply, and enter into the life that is waiting not in the world, but in you. Walk its halls, sit at its tables, speak its words. Let it be real, so real that the world has no choice but to conform. Because imagination is not fiction, it is causation. And the one who lives by imagination is not dreaming, he is creating. You have heard it said that imagination creates reality, and it does. But to harness imagination deliberately, you must learn the law by which it operates. And that law is the law of assumption. Everything you have, everything you are, everything you experience has come into being by what you have assumed to be true, not what you have merely hoped for, not what you have wished might someday come, but what you have assumed in consciousness, either knowingly or unknowingly. This law does not discriminate. It functions perfectly and impersonally. It takes no account of morality, effort, or appearance. It asks only one thing. What are you assuming? The law is always working. You are always assuming something. The question is whether those assumptions are lifting you or limiting you. Whether they are born from the vision of who you truly desire to be, or the echoes of who you used to be. And make no mistake, assumptions are not idle thoughts. They are states of being. They are the convictions you return to when no one is watching. They are the deep, persistent beliefs you accept without needing evidence. Look around you. Whatever fills your world is a reflection of what you have consistently assumed. The friends you attract, the income you earn, the way others treat you, the way life shows up for you, each is shaped and molded by the assumption behind it. The outer is simply the crystallized shadow of the inner. Now, some may say, I did not assume this hardship. I did not assume this loss. And I say again, you may not have wanted it, but you allowed yourself to identify with the state that leads to it. perhaps through fear, perhaps through habit, perhaps through unconscious repetition, but assumption works whether you are aware of it or not. So if you wish to change your life, do not wrestle with conditions. Do not attempt to break through walls built by old beliefs. Simply assume a new state, accept it, occupy it, and persist in it. You are not trying to make something happen, you are declaring it to be already so, and allowing life to catch up with your claim. Suppose you desire to be admired, respected, recognized for your worth. Do not wait for someone to affirm you. Do not wait for results to prove your value. Assume it now. In the stillness of your inner world, take on the feeling that you are already deeply appreciated. Let it be your new natural state, and as you move through the day, let that assumption guide your behavior not in arrogance, but in alignment. Others will feel it. Circumstances will reflect it, not because you acted forcefully, but because you dared to act faithfully from the end. And what is the end? It is the fulfillment of the desire. The end is not some far off day when things work out. The end is now within you. Your task is to assume that the desire has already been met, to live from that fulfilled state, to move as one who already has what he once sought. That is the great key. The law of assumption does not tell you to struggle toward your goal. It tells you to assume the goal is already yours, and to act, think, and feel from that place. You do not wish and wait. You accept and embody. There is a vast difference between thinking of something and thinking from it. To think of wealth while feeling poor is to confirm its absence. To think from wealth, even while appearances show otherwise, is to make it real. The one leads to longing, the other leads to fulfillment. The world responds not to your pleas, but to your posture. Your inner position determines your outer experience. The law of assumption brings to you not what you deserve, not what you want, but what you believe to be true. Do you believe that love flows to you easily? Then you will be loved. Do you believe that money is difficult and rare? Then it will remain just out of reach. Not because the world is cruel, but because the mirror only reflects what you are assuming to be real. But here is the great mercy. You can change your assumptions at any time. You are not bound by history, habit, or heredity. The moment you shift your inner conversation, your outer conditions begin to change. Maybe not instantly, but inevitably. You must not be deceived by delay. Delay is not denial. It is simply the time required for the new assumption to solidify into form. Do not dig up the seed because the fruit has not yet appeared. Persist, hold firm, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and remain loyal to it regardless of appearances. If you do this, the law cannot fail. It would be as impossible for it not to work as it would be for the sun not to rise. But your faith must be stronger than the evidence of the senses. You must walk by inner vision, not outer sight. You must speak as though it were already so. And yes, you will be tempted to return to the old state. You will be tempted to check for proof, to ask when or how, but that is not your concern. Your only duty is to assume, to dwell in the end, to carry the tone of fulfillment in your heart and actions. When you do, you become a magnet to your desire, not by chasing it, but by aligning with it. You are no longer one who hopes, you are one who is, and all things must conform to that being. Think of the actor. Before the curtain rises, he has already become the character. He does not ask the audience to believe him, he believes it himself, and the audience follows. So too with you. Life is your audience, but the role must first be accepted in consciousness. It must be worn inwardly before it can be seen outwardly. So what role will you play? What identity will you assume? Will you remain the seeker, always reaching, never finding? Or will you assume the state of the one who has found, who already is what he once longed to be? No one else can do this for you. No technique can replace assumption. You may meditate, visualize, write, speak affirmations, but unless you assume the truth of the desired state, those actions are lifeless. They are leaves without a root. The root is belief, acceptance, assumption. It is the inner yes that says, "This is who I am now." And when that is spoken in feeling, the law moves. Everything changes. Even that which seemed unchangeable begins to dissolve. So start now. Do not wait for a sign. Do not ask for permission. Quiet yourself, go within, and assume the one you truly wish to be. Clothe yourself in that state. Not for 5 minutes, but continually. Carry it with you through the moments of your day. Let it guide your speech, your decisions, your reactions. And if you should fall back, if doubt whispers, if fear knocks, do not condemn yourself. Simply return to the state, assume it again and again and again, until it becomes your dwelling place, until it becomes your natural expression, until the world has no choice but to reflect it, for the world is plastic to your assumption. It molds itself around the contours of your inner acceptance. It is not stubborn, it is obedient, and it will not resist the one who knows who he is. So I ask you now, not what do you want, but what will you assume? Because in that assumption lies your future. You must now come face to face with the most decisive truth of all. Yourself. Concept is your destiny. Not your talents, not your effort, not even the conditions into which you were born, but the concept you hold of yourself. That silent, dominant idea of I am, that is the force that carves every detail of your world. All things spring from it. It is the root, and everything else is branch and blossom. Every assumption you've made, every use of imagination, every desire you've ever fulfilled or failed to fulfill, all of it, has traced back to your concept of self. For you cannot create beyond it. You cannot persist in a reality that contradicts the image you truly hold of yourself. You may try to visualize, to affirm, to act boldly, but if your self-concept remains low, limited, fearful, unworthy, then all efforts will collapse back into that base identity. You do not get what you want, you get what you are. And what you are is determined by what you believe yourself to be. Now consider the man who believes he is always overlooked. He need not say it aloud. He may not even consciously realize it. But if he carries that assumption within, then life will echo it faithfully. He will enter rooms and be ignored. He will offer ideas and be passed over. He will be dismissed, forgotten, avoided, not because of who he truly is, but because of what he assumes himself to be. Likewise, consider the woman who sees herself as deeply respected, even before the world reflects it. That woman will naturally speak with quiet certainty. She will not need to prove herself, or grasp, or please. Her tone, her posture, her expectation all flow from that inner state, and the world, unable to resist, conforms. So you see, the world plays the part you assign to it by the concept you hold of yourself. It will treat you according to who you believe you are. It does not ask questions. It does not argue. It simply reflects. You may try to adjust circumstances, people, places, but if you leave yourself, concept untouched, nothing lasting will change. The outer world may shift for a moment, but it will always find its way back to match your dominant inner pattern. This is why some experience temporary breakthroughs that soon dissolve because their self-concept was never revised. But here lies your great power. Your concept of self is not fixed. It was built, and anything built can be rebuilt. You are not bound to yesterday's identity. You may have seen yourself as weak, unwanted, inferior. That may have been your truth once, but it need not remain your truth now. You can revise it, not with effort, but with awareness. Go within and begin to assume a new concept, gently, repeatedly, persistently. See yourself not as the one who is lacking, but as the one who is already complete. Not as the one who tries, but as the one who is. This is not arrogance, it is creation. You must learn to dwell in the new self. Concept before the world validates it. That is the law. If you wait for proof, you delay your transformation. Proof follows. Assumption leads. Identity shapes experience, not the other way around. When you wake in the morning, ask not what will happen to you today. Ask, who am I being? Because that answer determines everything else. Your mood, your choices, your actions, your responses, all of them are extensions of your identity, and they, in turn, reinforce it. It is a cycle, but you can interrupt it. The moment you shift your self-concept, your reactions change. And when your reactions change, your world begins to bend with you. A new identity means new outcomes, not eventually, immediately. It is the silent shift that matters most, the quiet decision to no longer think, speak, or act from the old self. You do not have to announce it. You simply assume it and let it permeate everything. Imagine yourself as successful. Truly imagine it not as a wish, but as a knowing. Let that version of you breathe through your thoughts. Walk as they would walk. Speak as they would speak. Dwell in their atmosphere, not to impress, but because it is who you now are. You must become familiar with the feeling of your desired self until it becomes natural, until it feels less like an effort and more like home. That is when the change becomes stable. That is when the outer begins to obey the inner without resistance. Do not underestimate the power of this inner shift. One change in self-concept is more powerful than 1,000 external adjustments, because everything outside of you must yield to what you believe yourself to be. Think of the one who assumes they are unlucky. Life will trip over itself to confirm that. Accidents, delays, missed chances all fall into place to support that concept, not because life is cruel, but because life is exact. Now think of the one who assumes they are blessed, not in superstition, but in quiet certainty. That one moves through life with ease. They find opportunities in what others call problems. They expect good, and it meets them. Their concept of self acts like a magnet, drawing all things of its kind. So let me ask you now, who do you assume yourself to be? Not who do you hope to become, but who are you now, in your own mind and heart? That is the key. Are you still telling the old story? Are you still saying, "This always happens to me"? Are you still wearing the identity of the one who struggles, who waits, who doubts? If so, then you must begin the revision now, not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, but now within. For your conditions are only waiting on you to stop reaffirming who you were. Begin with small shifts if you must. Assume you are heard. Assume you are valued. Assume you are chosen. Let that version of yourself take root. Repeat it until it feels true. Let the outer world remain as it is. Ignore it if necessary. It is the echo of an old state. Your loyalty must belong to the new self-concept, not to the evidence of the senses. Persist, and that which was once imagination will become fact. That which was once internal will externalize. You are not waiting for life to approve. Life is waiting for you to decide. And once you decide, once you say with conviction, "This is who I am now," then all things begin to organize themselves around that truth. People shift, circumstances adjust, paths open, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are not a spectator. You are not a reactor. You are the one who defines the part you play in this world. And the part you play is dictated by the self-concept you assume and persist in. So assume wisely. Let go of identities that no longer serve you. Release the role of the victim, the struggler, the one who almost made it. Embrace instead the self who already is what you desire to become. You owe no explanation, you owe only persistence, and when doubt comes as it may, do not argue with it. Simply return to the new self. Reassume it, reoccupy it. The more you dwell in it, the more real it becomes, and the more real it becomes, the faster the world will reflect it. So choose your concept of self as you would choose your future, for they are the same. You cannot create a destiny apart from who you believe yourself to be. Every act of assumption is a step into your future. Every shift in identity rewrites the path ahead. You are not becoming, you are being. You are not reaching for your destiny, you are assuming it. And from that assumption, all things unfold. It is not enough to imagine once. It is not enough to assume a new self-concept for a moment and then retreat. The truth is brought into form by one thing above all else: persistence. Persistence is the secret ingredient, the power that turns the invisible into the visible. Without it, even the most beautiful assumption, the most vivid imaginal act, will vanish like mist in the morning sun. But with it fate bends. You have been told that your self-concept is destiny, and so it is. But even a new concept, if abandoned at the first sign of resistance, bears no fruit. The seed planted must be watered. It must be shielded from weeds. It must be allowed to take root. Your world changes not by flashes of inspiration, but by steady, faithful persistence in the state you desire. Every great transformation, every fulfilled desire, every shift from limitation to freedom has come through one simple, powerful act: staying loyal to the end. You must persist in the assumption of your wish fulfilled, not just when it's easy, not only when the evidence supports it, but especially when nothing outside of you yet confirms it. That is where most turn back. They imagine, they assume, they feel, and then they look outside and see no change, and so they doubt, they revert. They re-identify with the old self, and the old reality returns. But the one who persists regardless of delay, regardless of appearances, that one rewrites fate. Understand this: your outer world is always catching up to your inner world. It is not immediate, because time is the servant of assumption. It brings to pass what you persist in believing. And if you would but remain faithful to your vision long enough, what once seemed impossible will become inevitable. You may be standing in lack and assuming wealth. You may be surrounded by conflict and assuming peace. You may be facing rejection while assuming deep love and belonging. And the world, for a time, may look unchanged. But if you do not shift, if you do not fall into doubt, if you simply remain, then all things must rearrange. Your persistence is the invitation the world cannot refuse. So I say, do not chase results, persist in identity. Let the old story rise if it must, but refuse to re-enter it. See it, acknowledge it, and then return to your chosen state. The world may shout the opposite, the senses may scream the contradiction, but those who master life are not led by the senses, they are led by the vision held within. Persistence is not repetition for the sake of duty. It is faith in motion. It is the quiet, unwavering decision to remain who you have declared yourself to be, even in the silence. And the silence will come. There will be a space between your assumption and its confirmation. That is the testing ground. That is where most give up. They look for signs too soon. They dig up the seed to see if it has sprouted. They judge the work before the harvest. And so they stole what was already in motion. But you must persist. Let the silence be sacred. Let it prove your conviction. Stay in the new concept, the new feeling, the new vision. Walk through your day as though what you desire is already fact. Speak from it, think from it, live from it, and persist. The outer world cannot help but yield to the dominant inner state. That is the law, and it is as fixed as the rising sun. What you assume with feeling and persist in with faith must harden into fact. Now understand, persistence is not force. You are not trying to bend the world with will. You are not struggling. You are resting in the knowing that what is real within will be seen without, if only you remain loyal to it. Every time you return to your vision, you deepen the imprint. Every time you refuse to react to the old world, you affirm your power. Every time you re-enter the state of the wish fulfilled, you tell the world who you are, and the world listens. There is no fate carved in stone. There is only assumption held long enough to become flesh. If you do not like what you are experiencing, change the assumption and persist. That is your privilege. That is your freedom. You are never trapped by the past. You are only ever loyal to it. Break the loyalty, assume anew, and stand unmoved, calm, certain. Even as the old echoes shout, let them fade, give them no energy. The new reality is forming. The path is clearing, the scene is shifting, all because you would not give up your place. The difference between the one who manifests and the one who waits is this alone: persistence. The one who persists carries the atmosphere of fulfillment, regardless of what appears. And eventually the world matches the mood. This is your work, not to force, not to beg, not to strive, but to remain. Remain in the state of the wish fulfilled. Return to it every time you drift. Dwell in it until it becomes your second skin. Speak only from it, see only through it, walk only in it, and when you do, you will find that what once required effort now comes with ease. The world, so long shaped by old assumptions, begins to mirror the new. And you will see that fate was never written in the stars, it was written in the mind, shaped by the heart, and built through the steadfastness of the soul. You persist, and fate obeys.